political movement appears to be reshaping American democracy. Crowds gather outside polling places across America. Nearly half of Americans now identify as independent. A chart highlights the rising independent share. At first glance, that sounds like a story about moderation. Political commentators discuss centrist voters. If fewer people call themselves Democrats or Republicans, party logos begin fading from a screen. Perhaps Americans are moving away from partisan politics. Voters walk away from campaign rallies. Perhaps voters are becoming less ideological. Political labels disappear from profile cards. It is an appealing explanation. Newspaper headlines reinforce the narrative, but it is also an incomplete one. Researchers looked more closely at independent voters. Political scientists examined polling data. They found something surprising. Graphs reveal unexpected patterns. Most independents are not truly independent. Survey results appear on screen. Most lean toward one party. Charts split independent voters by party lean. Most vote consistently. Voting records appear on a timeline. Many hold strong political views. Citizens participate in political discussions. In practice, many behave like partisans. Voting maps show predictable patterns, which creates a puzzle. If Americans are not becoming less partisan, why are so many abandoning partisan labels? Voters cast ballots at polling stations. The answer may reveal a larger story. A map of American institutions appears. This may not be a story about ideology. Political labels fade into the background. It may be a story about representation. Citizens stand outside government buildings. And perhaps even more importantly, trust. To understand why, we need a closer look. A magnifying glass moves over voter surveys. What does the independent label actually mean? The word independent appears on screen. Many people imagine a specific type of voter. A lone voter studies multiple candidates. Someone who evaluates every issue individually. A citizen reviews policy documents. The word independent fills the screen. A statement that says, quotation marks appear on screen. I don't feel represented. A voter stands alone outside government offices. Not necessarily by one party. Democratic and Republican logos fade away. Not necessarily by one politician. Politicians speak from podiums, but by the system itself. The US Capitol dominates the frame. This is where the story changes. The rise of independence may not mean disengagement. Citizens continue attending public meetings. In many cases, the opposite appears true. People actively discuss current events. People continue following political news. News feeds scroll across screens. People continue debating public issues. Town hall discussions fill the room. People continue voting. Ballots continue entering ballot boxes. What many seem unwilling to do, attach themselves to institutions they no longer trust. Government buildings appear behind skeptical citizens. This phenomenon has a name. The word dealignment appears. Dealignment. Dealignment means a weakening connection. A bridge slowly develops cracks. The connection between citizens and political organizations. Citizens stand separated from institutions. For much of modern history, parties served as bridges. Political parties connect communities to government. They connected citizens to government. People enter government buildings through symbolic bridges. They translated concerns into policy agendas. Public concerns transform into legislative documents. They provided political identity and belonging. Campaign volunteers gather around supporters. But what happens when those bridges weaken? A bridge begins to crumble. What happens when citizens still participate, but no longer believe institutions represent them? Citizens look toward distant government buildings. Now the story becomes larger. The rise of independence becomes more than elections. Election maps fade into institutional maps. It becomes a democracy story. The word democracy fills the screen, because democracy depends on more than voting. Ballot boxes appear beside government institutions. Democracy depends on representation. Citizens meet elected officials. When those beliefs weaken, something important begins to change. A representation gap emerges. A widening gap appears between citizens and institutions. People still vote. Voting lines continue forming. People still care about issues. Community debates continue, but confidence begins to fade. Approval ratings decline on a chart. Political institutions seem less effective. Government buildings grow more distant. The consequences extend beyond party affiliation. Trust begins to erode. A trust meter declines. Legitimacy begins to erode. Institutional approval charts fall. The relationship becomes fragile. A rope connecting citizens and institutions frays. This changes how we interpret independence. Independent voter statistics reappear. Instead of asking why people leave parties, we ask why people feel disconnected. Citizens stand apart from political organizations. And that raises a bigger question. Is this only about parties? Political party logos appear. Or is something broader happening? Government institutions fill the screen. The evidence suggests the latter. Researchers reviewed decades of surveys. Trust has declined across institutions. A downward trend line appears. Government. The Capitol building appears. Congress. Lawmakers sit in a congressional chamber. Political parties. Campaign headquarters appear, and many other institutions. Banks, courts, and media organizations appear. Citizens increasingly express doubts. Survey responses appear on screen. National maps merge into a global map. It may reflect a broader trust crisis. Institutional trust charts decline worldwide. Many assume the consequences are political. Election graphics dominate the screen. Less trust means harder elections. Campaign battles intensify. More polarization. Political divisions widen. More voter frustration. Citizens express dissatisfaction. Those effects are real, but they are not the whole story. Trust is not only political, it is also economic. Financial markets appear. This is where the story changes again. Trust intersects with economics. Most people think of trust emotionally. People shake hands, something personal. Friends and families interact, something social. Communities gather together. But modern economies depend on trust. Stock exchanges and businesses appear. Businesses invest based on expectations. A calendar flips forward, and tomorrow depends on confidence. Researchers repeatedly found similar results. Academic papers appear on screen. Trust reduces uncertainty. Risk indicators decline. Trust supports investment. As trust weakens, governments face growing difficulties. Legislative chambers appear gridlocked. Passing budgets becomes harder. Budget documents stall. Implementing policy becomes harder. Policy proposals remain unfinished. Responding to crises becomes harder. Emergency response meetings occur. Maintaining stability becomes harder. Economic indicators fluctuate. The consequences may not appear immediately. There may be no dramatic collapse, no buildings fall, no single turning point arrives. Calendars continue advancing. Instead, effects accumulate gradually. Small cracks appear over time. Small inefficiencies become larger problems. Minor delays compound into larger delays. Political dysfunction creates economic friction. Gears begin grinding together. That friction affects investment. Business leaders hesitate. That friction affects confidence. Consumers delay decisions. That friction affects future growth. Economic projections are revised. Seen this way, independents look different. Independent voter data returns. This is no longer about labels. Party labels fade from view. It becomes a signal. A warning light appears. A signal about citizens and institutions. Citizens face government buildings. A signal about institutional health. A heartbeat monitor tracks system stability. This does not mean democracy is collapsing. The evidence does not support that conclusion. Researchers review data. People continue voting. Polling places remain active. Political participation remains significant. Citizens attend civic events. Public debate remains active. Televised debates continue. Democratic institutions still function. Government offices remain open. But something important may be changing. The question is not survival. A democracy icon remains standing. The question is legitimacy. Citizens examine public institutions. How does legitimacy evolve? When fewer citizens feel represented, a widening representation gap appears. That may be the most important insight. The rise of independence is often framed one way. Headlines focus on voter behavior. A story about changing voters. Crowds shift politically, but it may actually be another story. Institutional buildings dominate the frame. A story about changing institutions or changing perceptions of institutions. Citizens view government through different lenses. The independent voter may not be saying quotation marks appear again. I don't care about politics. A voter ignores that statement. The independent voter may be saying, the screen shifts to another quote. I care about politics, but I don't feel represented. Citizens stand outside government offices. That distinction matters. One interpretation suggests disengagement. People walk away from politics. The other suggests a representation crisis. Citizens demand accountability. Those are different problems. Those require different solutions. Which brings us back to the beginning. Nearly half of Americans identify as independent. Why? Many are not abandoning politics. Citizens remain politically engaged. Many are abandoning labels. Party labels disappear from voter profiles. But a deeper possibility remains. The rise of independence may reflect a growing gap. Citizens and institutions drift apart. A gap shaped by distrust. Trust indicators decline. A gap shaped by frustration. Citizens express dissatisfaction. A gap shaped by declining confidence. Approval ratings fall. A gap shaped by questions. Government accountability is debated. Do institutions still respond effectively? Citizens wait for answers. If that interpretation is correct, the future of democracy may depend on more than elections. Ballot boxes fade into institutional buildings. It may depend on rebuilding trust. A bridge begins reconstruction. Parties can gain supporters. Campaign rallies grow. Politicians can win elections. Victory speeches fill the screen. Policies can change. Legislation moves forward. But a larger challenge remains. Do citizens still believe institutions represent them? Citizens face government buildings one final time, because that question extends beyond America. A world map reappears. What happens when people stop losing faith in a party? Party logos fade away and start losing faith in representation itself?